One day before the Elite 11 finals are supposed to begin in Manhattan Beach here in Southern California, USC hosted approximately 30 to 35, prospects. We'll call it a sessions camp. Plus, summer classes, they've started. Got all those new freshmen on campus, the ones who weren't enrolled early. I got everything for you here on this episode.
You are Locked On USC, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Culkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC part of the Locked On Network your first listen every day. You know the routine. Whether you're watching this show on YouTube, you can pick a platform, you can download this podcast. This show is always going to be free, and this show is always going to appreciate your support. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. So, update, 74 days left. USC will be kicking off their season against Missouri State. Are you ready? Got your tickets yet? Use Game Time for that. And because it's 74 days away from kickoff, it's summertime, right? We're in the middle of summer. It's a lot going on right now, especially on USC's campus. I mean, summer around USC, it's all about strength and conditioning. You got Trumaine Carroll, new strength and conditioning coach. He's getting the guys that are on the team right now stronger, bigger, ready to go. And let me tell you, the early feedback, I spoke to some of the players I bumped into while I was on campus on Monday. Discipline is the name of the game. Bottom line, it's do it the right way. Pay attention to details. One of the young men that I ran into said, quote, even if our toes are over the line by like an inch, half an inch, we're told we're doing it wrong. And if one person's doing it wrong, that means the everyone within that group has to start over. So it's all about accountability. One person screws up, everybody screws up. I bumped into Coach Riley for a real quick minute. We were kind of waiting for the prospect session camp. It was a very select few that were invited to come. I'm going to go over that list in the next segment. But Coach Riley was, heading into the McKay Center and got a chance to chat it up for just a minute, literally a minute. And I said, hey, when are PRPs going to get going? He was like, we've been going for like a week and a half now. So, okay, you guys are ready to roll. As I mentioned, Monday, really busy day on campus. And it's going to be a busy week, not just on campus, but in LA this week. You got guys coming in for official visits at the end of the week. Others guys showing up this week. I talked about the recruits, the prospects. That's going on all week. And plus, you got Elite 11 Tuesday through Thursday, about 10, 12 miles away in Manhattan Beach. And that's where I'm going to be for the next 3 days. So you're watching this episode, my everydayers, you're watching this on Tuesday the 16th. Today's opening day of Elite 11, the finals. So again, that's what's going on this week. There are the invite-only camps, Elite 11, plus, I mentioned all those guys who are not enrolled early. Well, they're on campus now. They're getting acclimated to school, going to class, working out. It's all about time management for these guys right now. Kind of getting used to the college life. And summer courses, they come at you much quicker. Everything's packed into a more condensed time frame. So you're actually working, I don't want to say you're working harder, but you're working at a quicker pace. So maybe that's a fair assessment of describing it. So the first two 2025 freshmen that I bumped into quite a few actually. Matai Tagoai, AJ Tuatele, the two incoming linebackers. So we were talking for a brief minute. And then all of a sudden, Floyd Ducard kind of saunters on up, blocked out the sun. It was kind of funny. He extended his hand and goes, hi, I'm Floyd Ducard. I said, you really don't need to introduce yourself, young man. big dude, polite. You can see why the coaching staff is looking for a certain type of personality, certain player. Here's three of them right here: Matai, AJ, as well as Floyd. What I really appreciated from Floyd is he walked up, he extended his hand as a welcome. So shows a sign of maturity. But again, all three of them very polite young men. All three of them. Looking forward to covering these guys. However, I was there with Scott Schrader. We were hanging out together, and as we started our walk towards the McKay Center, all of a sudden there's Alex Graham. He was enrolled early. Stephen Miller. We met up, said hello again, real quick. In fact, I think it was Stephen Miller who told us that about Coach Carroll's attention to detail when it comes to lifting, because even if your toes are over the inch, over the line by like a half an inch, your body's now out of position if you're doing a certain type of lift, and you could be creating an injury. Excuse me. So that's really what it's all about, just paying attention to the details. Anyway, so Alex Graham, Stephen Miller, again, two very young, polite men. I like these guys. Good looking incoming class. And the reason why I only talked to them for like a minute, it's basically a hello, how you doing? What do you like so far? It's because we're really not supposed to be talking to these guys until they've been released for interviews. So when they come up and say hello, you're just extending the courtesy, having some real quick idle chit chat, moving on. But finally made our way up there to the McKay Center, got some shade to sit around, and here comes Elijah Vicona. He is a different person right now. He looks different. You can see the work that he's been doing inside the weight room. Much more svelte. In other words, you're starting to see his body mature, but he's still massive. Still a big dude. His calves are as big as my thighs, and I'm not exaggerating. Dude is massive. Saw Chasen Johnson looks the part as well. Really good size. I think the team was doing a photo shoot, or at least some of the players. Maybe we got there when we saw the last of them. But saw Jacoby Lane walking from Heritage Hall in his uniform. Elijah Page, yeah, looks like he's ready for 2025. He chopped off all of his hair. Nice, clean boot camp look. He looks like a dude. I mean, you can tell he's ready for this season. I've watched this young man since he first got to USC. I've been watching him mature. He's now going into his junior season. I remember his freshman campaign. He actually drove down with Justin Diedick to Temecula. That's when Justin was doing his truck pull event. I remember that. I was down there. I covered that. And it was Justin was, trying to get some exposure for himself, a little NIL game going. But the bigger prize was his former high school, Chaparral High School, down there in Temecula. It was a fundraiser. So Elijah Page was already getting involved in this type of stuff, understanding it's important to give back to the community. Elijah's from Arizona. So a little while later, after, I saw Elijah Page, just sitting around, and the camp was going off over there on Howard Jones Field, Brian Kennedy Field, the new practice facility. And all of a sudden, one of my everydayers and his wife walked by, introduced themselves. He says, "Hey, I'm so-and-so, you gave me a little grief." So who are you? What was your name again? And I said, "Here, show me." I go, "Because you got to really say something that's going to catch my attention if I'm going to come back here." She goes, No, it was all good. It was all good. I just want to make sure never personal. Just understand that. He goes, "No, Mark, we're all good." Anyways, Vernon, excuse me, his name was Vernon. He and his wife, they were walking around enjoying campus. They had dropped off their kid who was taking part in one of the camps as well. It's for the little kids. I call them the tykes, like 8, 9, 10, 11-year-olds, those guys. He was in that age group. So anyways, we were talking for a little bit. And while we were talking, Elijah Page came by again, and Vernon had pointed out to his wife, and he said about this voice level, hey, that's Elijah Page. It's one of the starting USC offensive linemen. Well, Elijah heard it. He'd already passed by. And he stopped, turned his scooter around, came over and extended his hand to shake hands with Vernon and his wife, introduce himself. I can't tell you how much I respect that. The fact that Elijah just taking a minute out of his time just to, respect the fans. Say, hey, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for supporting the team. I love that type of stuff. Those are the types of observations I'm looking for. So if anybody wants to talk trash about a certain player, it's like, you know what? These are real people. And when they don't have their helmets on, when they're not playing football, they act like regular people as well. I know everyone likes to glorify the players, and I get it. We all look up to them. But let's remember, a lot of these guys are 17 to 20-something years old, young 20s. I refer to them as young men. And I just love watching them mature as the years go by and how they, like I said, they respect the fan base. I loved it. Vernon was telling me how he saw Jide Abasiri earlier in the day. And he's like, that dude is big. He was impressed by what he saw with Jide a year after he's enrolled. That's how much of a difference the strength and conditioning program has had on these players. So again, the players hanging out, walking around. I also saw Coach Rob Ryan, Coach BMW, Mike Williams. He was in front of the McKay Center. He was having a Coke and a smile with I think it was a parent. Anyways, all those coaches, they were in between, taking a break from doing the film work, inside the McKay Center. They're going to go take everything to the lab now, go out in the field and practice. I'm going to talk about that in the next segment. But again, they were getting ready to work with some recruits, some prospects. And as I mentioned, there's around 30 to 35 players on campus. And all these guys, elite talent, whether they're 2026, 27, 28, or 2029. Yeah, 2029 got an offer. Talk about that in the next segment. So just want to give you an update about what's going on campus right now. Players are ready. PRPs are going on, doing some team photo shoots. Coaches are getting some work in. So are some of the players. A lot of the players are interning out there on the field, helping out, earning their NIL, so to speak. So I thought you might enjoy that in the first segment. Next segment, again, talk about some of the recruiting work that's going on right now. There is nothing like the NBA Finals. They're happening right now. You got Indiana, Oklahoma City. The intensity, the buzzer beaters, the fans going crazy, whether it's a good times, bad times. If you've never had the opportunity to experience this in person, live, I encourage you, try it at least once. You'll have a great time. And if you want in on the experience, Game Time. Yep, they make it fast and easy to get your seats, even for the biggest playoff games, like the finals. Did you know? Yep, it's true. If you wait to the last minute, prices actually drop on tickets the closer you get to tip off. And with those killer last minute deals, you get those panoramic seat views on Game Time, and there's never a surprise fee at the end. Game Time is a total game changer. There are plenty of reasons why you should use Game Time. I'm going to give you two. These are my two favorite. I mentioned the panoramic seat view. Before you buy your ticket, you can click on the seat. It's going to pop open a window and say, this is what your view looks like. You'll know if you're 30 feet away, if you're 600 feet away. Regardless, it's going to give you a panoramic view of what it's going to look like if you purchase that seat. And with the Game Time guarantee, here's the other thing I love. You're getting the best deal. Because if you find a ticket in the same section and row for less, Game Time is going to guarantee you 110% of the difference. Y'all know, huge college football fan. Well, NFL schedule, it's out as well. Right now, you can jump on Game Time. You can start scouting out your tickets. You can get some great deals for up to $100, less than $100 for a seat because of some exclusive deals. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account. Redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Here's some recruiting news you might like. USC, they're on Luke Wafel watch. Yep. There is actually a chance that he could commit at any time. There was some speculation that he might be ready to commit as early as, I'm recording this Monday night. There was a chance that he was going to do it Monday, maybe even Tuesday. We'll see. There's been a bunch of smoke with Luke Wafel since last week. Actually, before that, if you hang out with me every day on Locked On USC, or if you're a subscriber over there at wearesc.com, my other place, you've been hearing the name Luke Wafel a lot, and that USC was in a really good place for his commitment. You know, it's basically down to a couple schools, and USC feels like they're in a really, really positive place for that. And like I said, I told my everydayers last week that Wafel and KJ Ford, the young man from Texas, those are the dudes SC is kind of waiting just to close shop on. Oh, by the way, Ford is going to be in town this weekend for his visit. So lots of good stuff coming up. Here are the guys who are on campus Monday. I'm going to call it for the Select Sessions Camp. Not sure what to call it, but it was real heavy with defensive backs. Let me just run through this list real quick for you. One quarterback was on campus, committed to USC, Jonas Williams, class of 2026. You also had 2027 running back Jackson Stokes from Sierra Canyon. You had A.J. McBean, running back from Maricosta. I'm going to be at Maricosta High School today, for the Elite 11 finals. You got Ben Harris, another running back from Servite. Really, really fast running back. Remember this name. He's a few years down the road, but he got offered at USC on Monday. His name is Mekhi Buchanan, class of 2029. He's listed as an athlete from Victor Valley. He looks much older than a 2029 recruit. His body physically mature, and that's probably why Ohio State's already given him an offer as well. He's one of those dudes. You look at him and go, okay, you can see that, okay, he's going to have a college and an NFL body. Those are usually, you can see that in running backs probably more than anything. Their bodies just mature differently. So Mekhi Buchanan. You also had another 2029 athlete. His name is Deshaun DJ Ferguson. He's from Universal City. And then let's get into these names. Tron Baker, the wide receiver from Sierra Canyon, committed. Quentin Hale, the wide receiver from Cathedral, 2027 kid. You've got, now I'm just going to start racing through these names. Let's see. Zarek Sidney, Desert Edge. Elijah Pendleton of Burbank. You've got Gavin Honore from Mater Dei. Eli Woodward, Chaparral. Zach Ferris, Arborview. Kenai Pepe, yep, he was on campus hanging out, IMG Academy. Jalen Brewster, Cedar Hill. Tom, he lives at USC now. You had Jamian Winfield, another commit. Jake Johnson, another commit. Kahilo Vaihiho, but Ito, I'm sorry if I screwed that up. I apologize. Cardinal Newman. Where am I at on this list? You got Carter Blattner from North Highlands, defensive tackle 2027. You have 2028 defensive end, Chase Archangel. Braden Jones, class of 2026, commit to USC. He's listed as a defensive end. He's much more stout. He looks like he's going to be an interior defensive lineman for USC. So I'm up close. I'm like, oh, wow. I thought he was going to be a little bit more long and lean. Not the case. Not at all. You had Samote Katan. He was hanging out. Taylor Johnson, the linebacker from San Bernardino, from Cajon. I'm not sure if he was there or not. I can't remember off the top of my head. There was like 5 guys who weren't there that were on this list. Rock Hill, Elbert, Ohio. Let me tell you, one of the defensive coaches could not stop raving about the Rock. He's good. I mean, the coach was rattling off all these different NFL cornerbacks, defensive backs, and at the end he just said, "Elbert's, he's him," and he's referring to all of those guys that he mentioned in the NFL. Peyton Dyer. By the way, his nickname is Man. Peyton Man Dyer committed to USC. Rock Hill, Evan Mack, Dante Wright from Long Beach Poly, 2027. You had Aaron Washington, Modern Day, Jacob Whitehead, Bosco, Miles Baker, Tron, Sierra Canyon. Hayden Stepp was not there from Bishop Gorman. Danny Lang, Modern Day. Coaching staff really likes that guy. He thinks he could be the best of the bunch in 2027. You had Mikhail Davis from Desert Edge and Jalen Hill from St. John Bosco, class of 2027. So let me remind everyone, these were the USC commits that were in attendance. Jonas Williams, Jamiron Baker, Kenai Pepe, Tom Tapui, Jamion Winfield, Braden Jones, Mote, Taylor Johnson, Peyton Dyer, Albert Hill. Not bad. It's hard getting these guys off campus once they commit. They just want to be around the program. That's a great sign. Some other notes here. Didn't really have much access to the workouts. We weren't really allowed to watch that part, but I saw some stuff. Can't report on it, but I saw some stuff. There's some dudes out there that just move and look different, and USC's got them. Duvet Williams, he was. I mentioned he was there from Gardena Serra. Duvet is. He's one of those guys. He's just different. As far as Jalen Hill from Bosco, let me tell you, you love his frame. He's so long, but he's gangly. It's awkward. If I was a football player, I'd be afraid to hit him because I didn't want. It looks like he'd break. He's all skin and bone. Dude just needs to eat. Get some meat on those bones because he's going to be good. What I enjoyed is what I can report on. I loved watching the SC coaches. They just had so much fun with these young men, throwing the ball around, throwing those deep fade routes, seeing how people break on it, that type of stuff. Coaches, I think the coaches really enjoy this type of interaction with the recruits. You're recruiting, but at the same time, you're teaching. And I think that's the part they enjoy the most. Oh, by the way, I got to meet Jonas Williams' mom. You know, she grew up down the street from LA, from USC. She was like, I grew up like right around here, what she said. Really nice lady. Elijah Harmon, defensive tackle, 2027 from Inglewood. Coach Henning was hanging out with him. He's a dude. And the last thing I saw when the camp was ending was Coach Riley and Tron Baker. They were walking back to the McKay Center together. When you got coach's attention and you guys are just having your little one-on-one, probably a good feeling, I would think, right? All right. So there's my feedback from my day on campus. You know, guys who are on the team, getting acclimated, veterans, as well as some, observations from the camp that they held on Monday as well. One more segment to go. We're going to talk about the 10 best players. That's a really hard list to compile. We're talking about the 10 best players at USC since 2000. That's coming up next. So last week on Locked on USC, I did the top plays in USC history dating back to 2000. Well, a little shift here. This week, inside the Trojan huddle, we got our marching orders from Chris Arledge. He says, give me your top 10 players dating back to 2000. I said, all right. So at first, I just put the list together and I sent it to him. I said, in no particular order. Because really, they're all special players. And how do you say this person's number 1 and this person's number 10? and you're number 11, 12. You understand where I'm going? To me, the line in the sand is so fine. I would hate to have to survive on the difference. That's how close everybody is. So I submitted my list this way, and again, in no particular order: Reggie Bush, BMW, Carson Palmer, Troy Polamalu, Big Cat Leonard Williams, Tuli Tuiapelotu, Marquise Lee, Brian Cushing, Ray Ray, Tyron Smith. All of a sudden, I get the message back from Chris Arledge and from Eric McKinney. They're like, dude, no, do you understand what a top 10 list is? You can't just do in no particular order. Chris is like, hey, if you don't want to do it, I'll just make up an absurd list for you, and then I'm going to make fun of you on the show. Okay. I mean, Chris is literally one of the few people that I would not want to get into a smack talk war with. Look, I can hold my own with anybody. I wish I didn't have a filter and a muzzle I had to put on when I'm doing this show sometimes. But Chris's game, strong. You know, he's a wordsmith, really good writer. He's a lawyer, so he knows how to use his mouth. And yeah, so he'd be one of the few people I probably would have to really be on top of my game if I'm going to get into a smack talk war with. Anyways, Eric decided to chime in as well. He was like, quote, that's why Mark doesn't get to vote in the AP poll. He just sends back a list of the top 25 teams in no particular order. Eric, I love his dry wit, his humor. It's just like, you gotta if you understand his personality, he's one of the funniest people you're ever gonna meet. So he's right. There's that. And you know what? I didn't pay my membership fee to be a College Football Writer Association of America member. So that's why I don't vote the top 25. So after I took a couple minutes of hazing from those guys, I said, you know what? Let me just look at my list here for a second. And I said, Mark, you know what? That's a solid top 10 list as it is. So I said, you know what? That's my top 10 list. Reggie 1, Tyron Smith number 10. They're like, all right, pretty solid list, actually. So you're thinking, well, Mark, you didn't mention Caleb Williams. Let me ask you this question, because I struggled when I got to 8, 9, and 10. Does Caleb Williams deserve to be on the list above Matt Leinart? Now, Caleb Williams, great talent at USC, one of the best to play at USC. But, you know, take away the Heisman, what do you have left? So would you put him above Matt Leinart, who I didn't have on my list? You saw I had one quarterback, Carson Palmer. Matt Leinart, a couple of national championships, played for a third Heisman Trophy. I mean, I picked Ray Ray and Cush as my linebackers. What about Clay Matthews? So which players did I leave off? Who should have made that list? Let me give you my top 10 from 1 through 10. Reggie Bush, BMW, Mike Williams. Troy Polamalu. Where does he belong on the list? I mean, he's an NFL Hall of Famer, right? He had a pretty good USC career as well. Big Cat Leonard Williams, one of the most dominant defensive linemen at USC in the last 25 years. Tuli Tuiapelotu. Marquise Lee. Do you remember how dominant he was? He won the Biletnikoff. Brian Cushing. Ray Ray. I mean, those are two linebackers that scared the crap out of everybody. Cushing, because he was just out here, you know, psycho. And Ray Ray will just knock the snot out of you. Tyron Smith, one of the best tackles in USC history. But, you know, I left off the Khalils. Ryan and Matt. Like I said, one offensive lineman. So give me your list. Who would you take off of mine? Who would you substitute? Give me your top 10 list. You know where to find me. Hit me up in the comments section on YouTube. Let me know. All right, I will be back with another episode tomorrow. I'll be reporting on my first day over there at the Elite 11 finals, and anything else that pops up. Maybe there's a commitment. Who knows? But until the next episode, everyone, you know what to do.